Hello, I'm Esther Abels, Chief Clinical and Regulatory Officer at Visiopharm and responsible for the strategy of regulatory and clinical affairs, as well as health economics and market access and computational assay development services, including developing companion diagnostics. Let me start by explaining what IVDR stands for. The In Vitro Diagnostic Medical Device Regulation is the new harmonized regulatory framework to ensure the quality, safety, and performance of in vitro diagnostic medical devices for a high level of protection of health for patients and users on the European market. The IVDR replaced the European Union's directive on in vitro diagnostic medical devices, IVDD. The new regulations create a robust, transparent, and sustainable regulatory framework recognized internationally that improves clinical safety and creates fair market access for manufacturers. In contrast to directives, regulations do not need to be transposed into national law in the European Union. The Medical Device Regulation, the MDR, and the IVDR will therefore reduce the risks of discrepancies in interpretation across the European Union. The major difference between IVDD and IVDR is the focus on the robustness of the clinical data and post-market follow-up. The IVDR focuses on clinical evidence. It increases the requirements on post-market surveillance and vigilance. The IVDR took effect on May 26, 2017, and there was a transition period of 5 years planned, that is till May 26, 2022, for application. And I say planned because the European Parliament has partially delayed the IVDR. The reason for doing this is that there were implementation challenges, and in order to make the IVDR work, a critical infrastructure is required. For example, notified bodies need to be available for auditing and reviewing documentation. Expert panels need to be able to provide their opinions. And with the pandemic, resources were diverted from the member states. The pandemic has also shown how critical it is to have accurate diagnostics and a robust regulatory framework for in vitro medical devices. Therefore, a partial delay was approved. The IVDR application doesn't change. The partial delay only changes the transitional provisions to allow the regulation's progressive rollout. The length of the proposed transition periods depends on the type of device. So this means that self-declared conformity under the IVDD, but require a notified body under the IVDR, may continue to place IVDs on the market according to following dates. Higher risk devices, Class D devices, for example, an HIV test, and Class C devices, for example, certain influenza tests, have a transition period till May 2025 and 2026, respectively. Whilst the lower risk class devices, such as Class B and A sterile devices, have a transition period until May 2027. The Class A self-declared devices and all new devices, they already need to comply with the IVDR since last May 26th. That is May 26th, 2022. Noteworthy to mention is that significant changes of devices under IVDD will require the manufacturer to comply with IVDR for that modified device. Another crucial element is that IVDR requirements regarding post-market surveillance, vigilance, and registration of economic operators, such as distributors or importers, shall already apply for the legacy devices. The major difference between IVDD and IVDR is the focus on robustness of clinical data and post-market follow-up. This is important to realize. because once an IVD is certified, it complies with these stringent requirements of the IVDR. So let's dive into the details and focus on what this is. What are these main changes under the new IVDR? 1. More in-depth clinical evidence requirements to prove the quality, safety, and performance of the IVD medical devices. That the device performs according to its intended use, and this has been shown with scientific, sound, analytical, and clinical studies. 2. Instead of a list-based approach, there is a new risk-based classification system to facilitate the development of safe products for patients, users, and society. In other words, the higher the risk, the more rigorous testing has to be executed to show the device can be used safely and effectively. For example, Class A devices are a low risk to patients and a low risk to public health, while Class D devices, the higher risk devices, have a higher risk to both patients and public health. 3. New conformity assessment procedure has been conducted by an external notified body approved by the European Union to CE mark the products, which increases registration requirements of medical devices. It is estimated that notified bodies will be involved in the CE marking of around 80% of the IVD devices in the market. In other words, under the IVD, about 80% of the devices were placed on the market by self-declaration. That is, the manufacturer declared the devices are conform to directives. There was no regulatory oversight by an independent notified body, and these devices do now require a conformity assessment. 4. It creates more transparency and traceability through the implementation of public databases where IVD manufacturers and their products are registered. The purpose of the database is that devices can be more easily identified than previously by the implementation of unique device identification system for traceability purposes. For example, it allows to track possible safety events and related actions. 5. It increased post-market surveillance and vigilance requirements. This means that legal manufacturers have to follow up on how well and safe the device is performing in the market. Physiopharm is already IVDR certified, and here we would like to highlight some of the related key benefits for our customers. 1. We have high standards of quality and safety for our in vitro diagnostic devices. 2. We have clearly defined definitions and regulatory scope. 3. We have improved oversight and traceability across the supply chain and throughout the entire device lifecycle compared to IVD certified products. 4. We have an ability to accommodate new technologies and scientific advances. 5. It facilitates trade and market access through the promotion of more convergent regulations. We achieved our IVDR certification in February 2022, and we are extremely proud to be the first digital pathology company, to the best of our knowledge, to announce that all our clinical apps are now certified under the new regulation. This certification shows that we have our processes in place to ensure we deliver quality products to the clinical markets. It is an important milestone in our continuous effort to support the pathology community to enhance capabilities in precision pathology and precision medicine with the goal to optimize patient care. In addition, this milestone is a stepping stone for our entry into the US markets.